talk? What do you talk? It's a musical. A Susical? No, a musical with girls on stage.
Musicals at the National Theatre have a rather checkered history. Basically, if it hasn't got the sophistication of a Sondheim or the renown and heritage of a Rodgers and Hammerstein, it's unlikely to be a success on a national stage. Of course, some plays do come with the occasional song or two, but they're usually just served as a side dish. You wouldn't categorise a threepenny opera with a thriller, or a Wuthering Heights with a Wicked. Not a great portent then for the new musical, Standing at the Sky's Edge, here in its delayed transfer to London from the Sheffield Crucible and making its debut on the Olivier stage. It won't help backstage that surely the memory of the National's last foray into new musical, Hex, must linger like a fart in a lift. Luckily, the worry turns out to be unnecessary. For this is what a new musical should be. It is fresh, it's contemporary, but it has all the hallmarks that make for a classic musical theatre. It's visually stunning and directed with a balletic finesse. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll be blown away by the powerhouse of singing talent right in front of you. Now, bear with me because the show's appeal may not be immediately clear. I mean, as a title, Standing at the Sky's Edge, sounds more fitting to a suicide note than a musical medley. Even the posters along the South Bank make it look as dreary as a John Osborne revival. The location too doesn't help. It's not particularly glamorous Park Hill housing estate in Sheffield, one of many tower block dominated areas that were built hurriedly and shoddily, it turned out, across the UK in the 50s and 60s. Trust me, as I say, things are not as bleak as this may sound. Sure, it is more real life than Happy Ever Afters, but it is a slice of recent history. And yes, you may shed a tear or two. What do you expect? It's a musical. But ultimately, this is a show that bursts with spirit and energy. It leaves you excited just to be at the theatre. Against this backdrop, three timelines run concurrently, each unfolding during a key time in Park Hill's history. The first is when the streets in the sky, as they were called, represented a post-war Britain. Filled with hope, they showed a Britain not clambering to its feet unsteadily, but reaching upwards to the heavens, literally. Then a few decades on, when Park Hill had evolved from a beloved beacon of society to a bothersome blemish on its behind. A time when the name alone became shorthand for the unwanted, the unwashed, and the unsafe. Finally, a few decades more, when blocks were rebuilt, refurbished, and rebranded as apartments. Existing tenants moved on or were moved out. New young professionals moved in. Park Hill became Park Hill. Different names, different politics, different events. But through them all, we hear the heartbeat of hope. The closeness of Park Hill has led Yorkshire residents to fall in love with the show already, but it's like the Liverpool and Blood Brothers or the Newcastle of Billy Elliot, a local setting for a truly global show. It's a tale of three cities, as we see three very different sets of residents arriving, living in and leaving the same apartment. Large digital cubes fly in to tick off the years on each timeline as the scenes play alongside each other. Covering 1960 to 1989 are young newlyweds, the youngest ever foreman and proud breadwinner Harry, and too spirited to be a housewife, Rose. Robert Lonsdale's haunting voice gives chills.
With my little treasures,
watching him decline alongside the prospects of his employer. Rachel Wooding has a fighting spirit, even as she moves herself and us to tears in her song.
Just can't take it anymore.
They have a son, Jimmy. Samuel Jordan, a tender lost soul with a rock star voice. He falls in love with Joy, Faith O'Malley, resident in the family from 1989 to 2004, and the charge of her cousin Grace, Deborah Tracy, and cousin George, Baker McCarthy, who was the first to bring the audience to its feet with his rousing rendition of Tonight the Streets Are Ours. This family have escaped from war-torn Liberia and have been housed in Park Hill during its time of dilapidation. In what is supposed to be a refuge for them, they are immediately told that to stay safe, they must stay inside and the door must stay locked. Amelie has the unenviable task of any actor having to show Joy ageing from a frightened young teen to a mother over this period of 15 years. If it's not 15, I'm sorry. When she finally accepts the estate as home. Only when tragedy strikes does she finally leave her daughter, who becomes Connie, Bobby Little, who metaphorically watches over the residents. In another nod to Willie Russell's classic tearjerker, she narrates in fourth wall breaking verse. Connie is also the estate agent who lets the properties to London lesbian Poppy, Alex Young, who takes the now regenerated apartment in 2015 as she tries to escape a painful breakup.
These days just break me. What have you done?
Poppy is
to me,
desperate to be loved,
baby?
she's desperate to be liked, she's desperate to be not lonely. Despite all this suffocating desperation, Young makes it impossible not to like and warm to her. Her voice also contrasts beautifully in the duets with the Winehouse-esque qualities of returning girlfriend Nikki, Maimouna Memon.
Open up your door, and I've never felt.
And there is plenty of fun to be had with her scenes with her and everyone's mother, Nicola Sloane, who can't disguise an edge of judgment whenever she offers support. Looked at individually, these characters and their respective arcs don't really offer many surprises, but when they're played together, they provide a dynamism and a pace to the piece. Scenes overlap and flow into, around and over each other. Lines seamlessly blur between Chris Bush's direction and Lynn Page's choreography. Tightly marked movement that remains languidly smooth and hypnotic. The embodiment of emotion as the entire cast sweep on, merge and divide as time progresses. Though it will no doubt be made into a film in the next decade, this is a show built for theatre.
Anybody like rockabilly? Does anybody like rockabilly?
Richard Hawley's music isn't an obvious choice for what is ostensibly a jukebox musical. Chances are, if you're a dad in your early 40s with a stash of secret NMEs stored in the attic, you'll already know Hawley. But if not, think 1950s rockabilly with echoes of country tied together by a string of 90s angst. And you can see why the back catalogue of ex-Pulp and ex-Longpigs artists may be atypical for the genre. As you'd expect, some songs are woven into the storylines and sung by their respective characters. Others are delivered as narrative asides, inspired by and underscoring the events that are playing out rather than developing the narrative. These are the times that get your heart pumping. One, two, or a chorus from the cast take the stage, not as characters but as performers. The most phenomenally strong singing voices you're likely to hear outside a concert venue give the songs a whole new life. And to be really clear, this isn't a group of actors who can sing. It's not musical theatre voices. It's a group of people who could easily be recording artists, each with a unique quality and singing style which they could individually be renowned. Along with those already named, special mention must go to Dara Cowley, Rachel Louise Miller,
In darkness.
McKechnie.
Coming. You'd better run.
Stunning, stunning, stunning. Standing at the Sky's Edge is a must-see show. It reminds you of hope, it reminds you of the power of tomorrow, and it reminds you of the need to carry tissues with you during shows like this. If we put aside more recent hiccups, we may remember musicals at the National a little differently. Indeed, we may recall a shortlist that includes successes like Hadestown, London Road, Jerry Springer the Opera,
Take care of yourselves and each other.
That shortlist has just got one name longer.
Over roof slates, hope hung on every washing line. As your
Know that tonight these streets are tonight.
You should see Standing at the Sky's Edge now. Enjoy the bragging rights when it is still bound to be performing in theatres in many years to come.